So 6 years ago, Artemis, she was turned into the Toronto Wildlife Centre, and there they determined that she was a human imprint, which means that she doesn't really understand that she's a bird, she thinks she's a human. So if she were to be released back into the wild, she wouldn't know how to hunt on her own, how to defend herself, or just survive in general. She was likely stolen by someone who wasn't very educated about leaving wildlife in the wild, either as a young chick or even as an egg. She's used as an ambassador to her species to spread the word to people about the importance of leaving wildlife in the wild in their natural environment. For training our birds, we use something called positive reinforcement, which is basically just rewarding the birds for doing the behaviors that we ask for.
People are shocked by, I guess, how common they are in our everyday lives in our backyards. And I think they're also just like shocked by like their beauty, like seeing like talons in their beak and their wings and their colors. I think not everyone gets to see that every day. So people think of the panda or the rhino, and they're really cool and exotic, but there's also species in Canada that are affected. Peregrine falcon's a good example with pesticides and DDT. It's a success story now, now that DDT was banned. They made a huge recovery and peregrine falcons are now doing great. But I think just stories like that are, I guess, closer to home. Hi, bird. Nice. So this is Chinook. She's our peregrine falcon. So what I'm going to do right now is called a station, and so just getting her to like stand on a certain surface I want her to, and then rewarding her for it. So in this position, we'd usually get her equipment on, and then I can ask her to back. Hey. Good girl.
These animals are not social. They're hanging out by themselves for the most part when they're in the wild. That's why you're seeing them on top of those telephone poles by themselves. So I was told he was never gonna love me, and understood that. So my relationship, I guess, was a bit skeptical when I first started, but to a certain point, I think we have established some sort of love connection because, you know, I have to go in and practice and train with him and understand that this powerful bird is not going to hurt me, but he also has to understand that I'm not there to hurt him as well. So we've built some sort of trust relationship, and whether you want to call that love or not, we've built it today, and that's why he's kind of comfortable with being on my glove. And that's a really awesome sign. So that's called rousing, and that means Indiana's really, really comfortable being in front of you guys because he actually has to close his eyes to do that.
For me, I had a really clear defining moment in that when I was quite young, I had the privilege of seeing a wildlife education program at a provincial park. It was just a couple of very cool young people who were doing a program with a non-releasable young wolf, and I just thought that was the very coolest thing that could ever happen. The idea of not only working with those animals, but also using them for such an important job.
I wanted to learn mostly about the care of non-releasable birds, not just by daily things like doing health checkups on her, but in the long term as well, like for her entire species, by teaching people to just admire these birds in the wild and not to steal them out from the wild. So that just helps me take care of her entire species in sort of a more indirect way, but it's still a really big impact that I feel like I'm having.